The Watcher. My 7th birthday was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The backyard was a burst of color and laughter, with balloons and music bobbing in the early July breeze. The sweet scent of cake and ice cream mingled with the smell of freshly cut grass. I remember running towards the swings when I noticed something odd. Behind the fence, partially hidden by the shadows of the trees, stood a tall man. He was wearing a wide-brimmed hat that obscured his face, but I could feel his eyes boring into me. My stomach churned with an inexplicable dread. I glanced back a few times, and each time, the man seemed a little closer, as if he were inching forward whenever I wasn't looking. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me, a rustling sound followed by a blood-curdling scream. I turned around just in time to see the man grabbing my best friend, Emily. Her terrified scream was abruptly cut short as he yanked her through a gap in the fence. Chaos erupted as parents and kids scrambled to understand what had just happened, their joyful cries turning into horrified, helpless shouts. The ensuing search for Emily was intense. The police never found all of her remains. A week after Emily's disappearance, some neighborhood boys fishing in the McKee River stumbled upon her left foot, which had been gnawed to the bone by the local marine life. A few weeks later, Mrs. Moore, walking her dog east along the river, discovered her 2 little hands. It felt as though the man had turned her body into a grim scavenger hunt. What's even worse is that the person who did it was never found. Besides eyewitness testimony, the only other clues were photos from that day, each with the tall man in the background, always watching. Even now, 20 years later, the fear haunts me in the most mundane moments. Every time I open a drawer or a cabinet, my heart races with the dread that I might find something that doesn't belong there. I fear that I might discover Emily or another piece of the past that refuses to let go. Today, as I was organizing the living room, I knocked over a box of old photos. As I bent down to gather them, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck prickle. I turned back to the photos scattered across the floor, and my heart nearly stopped. It was a photo of me squatting down to retrieve the spilled photos, and in the reflection of the living room mirror was the tall man, standing just behind me. I am locked in the downstairs bathroom now. The cold tiles press against my back as I try to quiet my breathing, my mind racing with panic and disbelief. He's back, and I fear I will not make it out of this alive. I can hear the soft creaking of the floorboards outside the door, a slow, deliberate sound that sends a chill down my spine. Every instinct screams at me to hide, but there is nowhere to go. I think of Emily, of her laughter that day and the horror that followed, and I know I have to act for me and her. With trembling hands, I search the small bathroom for anything I can use as a weapon. My fingers close around a heavy porcelain lid from the toilet tank. I know it's not much, but it's something. I force myself to breathe, to steady my shaking hands, and I grip the lid tightly, ready to defend myself. I may not be able to outrun the shadow of my past, but I refuse to let it consume me without a fight.